Shalom. First and foremost, before I get this lesson started, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kadash. Double honors unto the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakathum. To all you sincere Akim and Akwath out there diligently laboring in this truth and in the faith of our Lord Yahweh Shai, occupying in the prophecies until the kingdom of heaven is set up in righteousness upon the planet Earth. It's the brother Azariah back with another lesson going into understanding the fourth beast to edify and feed the sheeps of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Now, going into the fourth beast is very crucial to understand because this is the last beast, the last kingdom that was prophesied to rule upon the earth before the return of our Lord Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus the Christ. So understanding who was in rulership and how this beast came into power historically is an important part of this spiritual battle. So I want to start here in the book of Daniel, chapter 2 and verse 1. Now this is the account where Nebuchadnezzar had the dream, vision, that was given to him by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And he needed an interpretation to understand what this dream meant. So this is verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. Now, of course, we know that none of the wise men of Babylon could correctly interpret the king's dream. But of course, the Most High always reveals his secrets to his servants, the prophets. And the prophets were all Israelites. There were no heathen prophets. Okay, that's important to understand. So in the last days, likewise, the only people that would have the true understanding of the scriptures of the Bible would be Israelites. Okay, so don't go around expecting no heathen to give you the correct breakdown of anything in the scriptures. Now they may be able to pinpoint you to certain things historically that may be accurate, but when it comes to the deep revelations of the scriptures, the Lord will only reveal that unto his servants, the prophets, which are Israelites. So we'll go down to where Daniel interprets the dream for this heathen king, to verse 31. It says, Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. So here it is, Daniel was giving the king the rundown of the image of this, basically the image that he saw in this dream, and he's breaking it down to different calibers of metal, gold, silver, brass, iron, and clay. So when we go down here to verse 36 on down, Daniel breaks down that these certain metals, these precious metals that were on this image, this statue, represented rulerships of nations and kingdoms that would come upon the planet Earth. At different points in history. Salakia. So Even the Bible scholars know that this first kingdom, that head of gold, represented the Babylonians, which Nebuchadnezzar was the king over Babylon. Then after Babylon fell, they were assimilated into the Medo-Persian Empire, all right, which ruled over the known world for a time. Then after them came the Greeks. Then after the Greeks came the Romans, all right. Now this fourth beast is an extension of Greece and Rome. You'll hear it referred to in by scholars as the Greco-Roman Empire. Why is it the Greco-Roman Empire? Because Rome pretty much just assimilated Greek culture into their culture. All right. When you consider the fourth beast today, which has rule over all the earth, a lot of those same customs and practices are alive and well today. You have college fraternities, you have a dual party governmental system, all right. You have centurions, which now would be called the Fraternal Order of Police, all right. Many different things that are alive and well in today's society you can trace back to ancient Greece and Rome. This is why I mentioned in the beginning of the video, understanding the fourth beast is very important to this, to the understanding, of this spiritual battle that we're in today. All right, so let's start with the Greeks, because we know that the Greeks took over. They conquered and assimilated the Medo-Persian Empire into their empire. All right, and that was prophesied. Now, when you deal with Greece, this third kingdom, it was represented as what? As brass. And it says, it shall bear rule over all of the earth. Now, what was the beginning of this Greek kingdom? Let's go here to the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Now this is history. Okay, this is coming from the book of 1 Maccabees, which is in the Apocrypha. All right, which gives you the beginning of the Greek Empire, which started with who? Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, and it said that he smote Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. Now, Daniel 2, right? After the Medo-Persian Empire came the Greeks. Okay? So Alexander, through the force of the sword, he conquered the Medo-Persian Empire and assimilated it into his kingdom. Now, let's get a quick bio on Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, also known as Alexander the Third or Alexander of Macedonia, born 356 BCE in Pella, Macedonia, northwest of Thessaloniki, Greece, died June 13th, 323 BCE in Babylon, Iraq. King of Macedonia from 336 to 323 BCE, who overthrew the Persian Empire, carried Macedonian arms to India, and laid the foundations for the Hellenistic world of territorial kingdoms. All right, so here it is. It's also explaining to you in secular history that Alexander, he was the beginning of the Hellenistic world. It all started with his conquest. Okay, so Alexander, he laid the foundation for Rome. All right. Already in his lifetime, the subject of fabulous stories, he later became the hero of a full-scale legend, bearing only the sketchiest resemblance to his historical character. Now, the kingdom of Macedonia that Alexander came out of, as you can see here, is northwest of classical Greece. Okay? Now, Alexander the Great, he was an Edomite. All right, so their original habitation is not in this part of the world. It actually goes back to the land of Israel, just south of the kingdom of Judah. All right, they were in a place that was known as Mount Seir, all right, which today is known as Petra, the city in the mountain. Okay, that is the original habitation, the original what's the word? The original homeland of the Edomites. Okay, now the people that were over here, these were the descendants of Japheth. Okay, dark-skinned people. Now, when you look over there today, it's not dark-skinned people that are there. It's Edomites. Okay, but through the conquest of Alexander, all right, because once the Lord destroyed them up out of Mount Seir, they fled west. All right, so they came up in Turkey. They were all up in here. You know, Edomites fled to the Caucasus Mountains. You know what I'm saying? Then they moved further west. Then when Alexander came about, he went on to conquer the whole of the known world, which included classical Greece, which was a major, well, not major, but they were a very cultured, important part of Europe at that time. Then down here, you had the kingdom of Crete, where the Minoans was at. Okay, all you gotta do is Google Minoans. They were dark-skinned, Japhetic people. Okay, Esau conquered all these lands and pushed the original Japhites up out of there. So now what you have in Greece and all these different European nations now are Edomites. All right, Salakia. All right, but Macedonia, just a quick backdrop. They were basically like the backwater of Greece. Greece was more cultured. You know, they were more sophisticated. They had philosophers. They had advanced technology. Macedonia wasn't like that. You know, Macedonia was like Hicksville compared to Greece. All right. So no one at that time thought that any major movement or civilization would come out of Macedonia. But Alexander, through the Lord's will, came out of here, all right, and conquered the whole of the known world. So we'll watch this video real quick, just, giving a quick breakdown of how Alexander went out and conquered the whole of the known world to establish Esau's blessing upon the earth. All right, so let's check this out.
Alexander the Great wanted to be both human and divine. He wanted to have a supreme power over other human beings that could never be questioned.
Alexander the Great was born in 356 BC to the Macedonian King Philip and one of his foreign wives, Olympias.
There are many myths behind Alexander's birth, one of which is that Philip had a vision that a snake was sleeping with Olympias. And it was these visions that were confirmed by oracles that made Philip believe that Alexander was a son of one of the gods.
Alexander grew up in Pella and was tutored by Aristotle.
Macedonia at the time of Alexander's birth is still considered to be a rude, rather barbarian by Greek standards sort of place. Bringing Aristotle in to tutor Alexander is like bringing culture to your rude barbarian society.
In 336 BC, at a royal celebration, Philip was fatally stabbed by Pausanias, one of his guards.
Once Alexander became king, he prevented the empire from collapsing and splitting by first going down to the Greek city-states and securing their allegiance. He burned the city of Thebes to the ground and dismantled it. He slaughtered all the male inhabitants and enslaved all the women and children.
Over the next several years, Alexander and his army started east, conquering everything from Greece to India.
And that leads me here to 1 Maccabees chapter 2. All right, now they just said that he conquered east, even as far as India, right? Verse 2, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Verse 3, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. So Alexander, he conquered to the ends of the known world, okay, to India. See? Now he wanted to keep going. Alexander wanted to keep going and conquering, but the Lord set a bounds that Esau couldn't pass. So what ended up happening was when they got to India, the Lord put his spirit on his men because they hadn't been home in so long. They hadn't been home in years. They were just fighting nonstop. The wars were just ongoing. All right, so they pretty much got tired of war and they wanted to go home to their families. All right, so the Lord put his spirit on them to basically mutiny against Alexander. So it kind of forced him to turn back. All right, but that's why it says here his heart was lifted up. He was exalted because he wanted to keep on conquering, but the Lord put the spirit on his men to say, no, we're not going no further. We've been out here long enough. How much more can we conquer? We want to go home. So yeah, man, Alexander, won many strongholds. He spoiled many kings. All right, and at the same time, he was spreading that Greek culture throughout the known world. Okay, they spread that Greek influence. All right, just like the scripture that says, I've seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a green bay tree. Okay, so Alexander went throughout the earth and Hellenized. Okay, gave that Greek culture, all right, to every nation that he conquered. And in this fourth beast today, you see the same thing. All right, the earth is drunken off of the wine of Babylon, which I don't want to get ahead of myself, but all of this goes into the understanding of the fourth beast. All right, let's finish out this video.
Alexander's most impressive victory was at the Battle of Issus in 333 BC. Alexander faced odds of 5-1 against the Persians led by King Darius. What finally made him stop was his soldiers finally decided they had had enough. They were ready to go back to Macedonia.
On his way back to Macedonia, Alexander had many of his officers marry Persian noblewomen in an attempt to solidify his reign over Persia.
There was considerable opposition to Alexander's rule as king of Persia from his own Macedonians. The Macedonians saw him becoming less and less Macedonian and more foreign.
After a sudden illness, Alexander the Great died in Babylon in 323 BC.
All right, we can stop right there. Okay, now going back to Daniel 2, let's jump up in verse 37. Let me jump up a little bit more. All right, so the rulership of the Greeks, Alexander the Great, began with what? The belly and the thighs. All right, so this is the beginning of the rulership of Esau with the Greek Empire. Okay, now when you go down to the legs, right, this represents the rulership of what? Rome, right, which would be the last beast to rule upon the earth. Now when you deal with the rulership of Esau, it deals with the legs on downward, which is what? The base of the body. Let's go to Daniel 4. Okay, because the Lord told you that he setteth up even the basis of men. Right, Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. Right, now what? The base is what? The lowest point of the body, right? The lower extremities, the thighs, okay, the legs on downward. All right, that's the base. Now what does it mean to be base? To be base means to be of a very low estate. All right, to be low morally, spiritually, all right, in all aspects. Okay, that also leads me to another precept that's in Job 30. Job 30, and let me start up a little bit. Verse Job 30:3. For want and famine they were solitary. This is speaking of the Edomites, okay? Fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. So there was a time, all right, where Esau was so low, he was so base, that he was cutting up mallows and eating juniper roots for meat. So they were eating grass like oxen. All right, they was eating the herbs of the earth like beasts. All right, that's why the Lord gave the vision to Daniel and likened the rulership of the heathen kingdoms unto different beasts. All right, because this is the nature of the heathen. All right, verse 5, they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief. So then there came a time where the Edomites, they were driven forth from among men. So they were chased out of, society amongst the other melanated nations. Because what? Cried after them as after a thief. Just like Yahushua said, the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and to destroy. Who was that thief? Esau, Edom, the so-called white race. All right? To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth and in the rocks. Now I brought it out earlier. The original habitation inheritance of the Edomites was what? Mount Seir, Petra. All right, then once the Lord destroyed them out of there, they fled up into the Caucasus Mountains. Then, there was a time when they came up out of there and they fled, and then, they migrated west, okay, and settled different parts of the Western Hemisphere. All right. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yeah, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. So like I brought out, okay, being base means to be very low morally, spiritually, all right, in all aspects. Okay, they were viler than the earth. Now let's go back to Daniel chapter 2. Okay, because we're going into the Greeks right now, which is the belly represents the belly and the thighs of brass. Now there came a point to where the kingdom of Alexander was broken up. All right, and when it was broken up, it was divided. Okay, let's go to Daniel 7. Daniel 7 and 6. And it says, after this I beheld, and lo, like a leopard which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. Now the leopard is key, because the leopard represents the rulership of Alexander the Great. All right, the beginning of the Edomite rulership, hegemony upon the planet Earth. Now, why do the scriptures mention the Greeks? Salaki, now why do the scriptures mention the Greeks as the leopard? Well, because Alexander, who was the father of the Greco-Roman Empire, he was known to wear leopard skins into battle. And just the fierceness and the swiftness with which he conquered the nations was likened unto a leopard. All right. And it says the beast had also 4 heads. Now this beast, all right, going into the 4 heads of this beast goes into the 4 generals that Alexander divided his kingdom unto after he died. Now the names of these generals are Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus or Lysimaeus, and Seleucus. All right, they were known as the Diadochi. Okay, so his kingdom, he split his kingdom into 4 divisions after he died. And we can go back to First Maccabees. Okay, verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after all these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, so it tells you here in the scriptures in First Maccabees that Alexander, all right, the beginning of his rulership, what? Evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, so this is when the wicked, okay, because Esau, Edom, the Edomites, they referred to as the wicked in the scriptures. All right, and it clearly says here, evils were multiplied in the earth once they came into power. Now, it's not like no other nations were wicked before Alexander. All right, but this is the wicked. All right, they were created to be the wicked, to push that vibration upon the earth. All right, so that's the Greek Empire. All right, it goes on. They ruled over different parts. I forget. I know Ptolemy was in Egypt. Cassander and Lysimachus, they was in Greece and Asia Minor, and I forget where Seleucus was at. I believe Seleucus was in Asia Minor as well. But yeah, so he divided his kingdom between his generals. All right, so that's the beginning. All right, that's the Greeks. Now we can go back to Daniel 2. Now we're going to deal with Rome, okay, because Rome came directly after the Greeks. All right, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Now Rome was known for what? Their iron weapons. Okay, that's how they were able to go throughout the ends of the earth and conquer the nations, by the edge of their iron swords. The Greeks were known for their brass. Okay, their brass shields, their brass tipped spears. All right, the brass armor. All right, so that's why on that statue, certain metals are synonymous with certain rulerships of the heathen. Okay, with the Romans, it's iron. Okay, Rome was known for its iron. All right, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. Okay, now there was a point where Rome, during the conquest of Julius Caesar, he went out and conquered the whole of the known world. All right, and as iron that breaketh all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. All right, now let me go to Revelation 6 and 8. Okay, because Esau was given great power to go out and conquer the earth. All right, Revelation 6 and 7. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. And hell followed with him, and power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. All right, so this pale horse is referring to Esau, Edom. Okay, power was given to him by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to go out and to kill with the sword. All right, when you go to Genesis 27, Esau's blessing was what? Jump down to verse 40. Or verse 39, Salakia. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. Meaning that what? Esau would have the best places of the earth. All of the lush green islands, right? America, Europe, parts of Africa, parts of Asia. This man has the fatness of the earth. He has the resources, okay? And of the dew of heaven from above. This is the point. Verse 40, and by the sword shalt thou live. So Esau was given what? The blessing of the sword. The blessing to make war, to create diabolical, destructive weapons with which to go out and conquer. You see? And by the sword shalt thou live. So this man would live by warfare, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, which his dominion began when? During the rulership of Alexander the Great, going on to the Romans, right? When thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay? So that's going into the prophecy of Esau ruling with the sword. And how did these Edomites get their rulership? By the edge of the sword. What did they do? They went out to the four corners of the earth and conquered all the nations by the edge of the sword. Okay? Because this man was given a great sword, as it says in Revelation 6 in verse 8. All right, now, when you deal with the Roman Empire, in 117 AD, this was the height of the Roman Empire. Okay, so this is what Alexander conquered, right? He conquered down here in Egypt, Asia Minor, pushed west into India, right? Then Rome came around, right? Because Rome came up out of here. Right, they came up out of Italy, they went up, conquered the east first, then they pushed west into Western Europe. This is where Julius Caesar, this is where his conquest and campaigning was going on hardcore. All right, in which he, conquered the western portion that Alexander didn't. All right. So now, let's get this video here, okay? Because there came a point where Rome reached its height, and then the Roman Empire was split into two factions because they were starting to go through some trouble, shortly after this period. So what ended up happening was Rome was split between the east, the western, it's like over here in this portion, Asia Minor, with their capital being Constantinople, or what is known as Istanbul today, and the west. Okay, now the scriptures tell you, that there was a deadly wound, all right, that the beast suffered that was eventually healed. Now that deadly wound was the Western Roman Empire falling to barbarian tribes, okay, outside invaders, because what happened was that it came a point where Rome, they had too many enemies, all right? They made too many enemies. People wanted to get Rome out of there, okay, because they were oppressive. You see? It is not Esau oppressing the earth to this very day. Look at what's going on in Africa with, all these nations aligning themselves with Russians, even though they're Edomites too, but they're just a better, batch of Edomites, okay? But they kicking the West out, okay? There's a war against the West right now in the earth. And it was the same thing back then, okay? This is eventually why, the Huns and the Visigoths and different barbarian tribes came in, and they conquered all of Western Europe to the point where Rome and the West fell. All right, that's that deadly wound. But let's get this video here to go in on that a little bit. Let's check it out.
An army mostly made up of barbarians against the Huns. A colossal amount of people died, and by 453 the Huns had withdrawn from the Western Empire, and it was in this same year that Attila died. His empire subsequently fell into civil war and disintegrated fairly quickly. 454 saw the assassination of Aetius by Valentinian, who the next year was himself assassinated. In the wake of Valentinian's death, the West fell into chaos, which saw more territory lost, and Rome sacked again in 455, this time by Genseric. By 457, the emperor was a man called Majorian, who actively sought to reconquer the lost territories within the West. He had some success with this and recaptured all of this territory with the help of his Magister Militum Ricimer. Ricimer would have Majorian assassinated and would then rule the Western Empire as Stilicho had through a series of imperial puppets until his death in 472. There were some more weak emperors in the West until a man called Orestes took control of it and named his son emperor as Romulus Augustus, although he's better known as Augustulus, which means Little Augustus. Both of these were soon chased off in 476 by a man called Odoacer, who forced Romulus to abdicate, leaving the imperial throne vacant in the West. This is with the exception of the former emperor Julius Nepos, who claimed it but had no authority. This is, by many historians, considered to be the final end of the Western Roman Empire. In the void it left were many new kingdoms, including the Vandals, the Visigoths, the Franks, and now in Italy the kingdom of Odoacer, which pledged its allegiance to the Eastern Emperor Zeno. Zeno would of course have other.
See, after the fall of Western Rome, these tribes took over and divided the former Roman lands into small kingdoms. Okay, the kingdom of the Franks, the kingdom of Spain, Portugal, England, Germany, so on and so forth. The Holy Roman Empire, the kingdom of Italy. Okay, so Rome was divided up. Let me go back a little bit. Okay, so Rome was divided up. The Roman lands were divided up between these barbarian tribes after the fall. Okay, and then eventually you had Jake, okay, which were known as the Moors at that time. They came up from northern Africa and conquered, okay, during the time of the Middle Ages, and they ruled in Europe for 1,000 years. All right, so during the Middle Ages, Jake was ruling over these lands. All right, but moving forward past that 1,000-year period, there was a rebirth. All right, there was a rebirth of power of the Western Roman Empire within the planet Earth, in which they gained back hegemony. Let's go to Revelation 13. All right, because it tells you about that deadly wound that was healed. Now this is Revelation 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We'll get into that in a minute. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Right? Now remember, we had read in Daniel earlier of that same leopard, okay, which goes into the rulership of the Greeks. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power. So Esau gets his power from who? The left-hand side. Ultimately by Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, but through Hashatan, Satan. Okay? He who's coming is after the working of Satan, right? The dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Verse 3, this is the point here. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. Now, these 2 heads, okay, one of them was wounded. Right? Now, like I mentioned earlier, the old Roman Empire was split into 2 factions in the ancient world, the Western Rome and Eastern Rome. Okay, Western Rome is the one that was wounded unto death. Okay, they were taken over by the barbarian tribes, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, how and when was this deadly wound healed? It was healed at the point of a period called the Renaissance, okay, which means what? The rebirth, right? What does it say here? It says the wound were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. So Western Rome came back. All right, Western Rome came back into the picture, and they came back strong. Now, there was the period where, Esau rose up against Jake, because, it was the Lord's appointed time for it to happen. Esau rose up against Jake. I believe it was the Spanish that first they took back the Iberian Peninsula from the Moors, and then there were different rebellions that were happening in Europe at the time where Jake was thrown out of power, and the Edomites gained back their rulership. Western Europe became strong again in the earth. All right, so this is Renaissance, from the French rebirth, the period in European civilization immediately following the Middle Ages, and conventionally held to have been characterized by a surge of interest in classical scholarship and values, which is what? The rebirth of Roman ideals, the rebirth of the old Roman way. The Renaissance also witnessed the discovery and exploration of new continents. We'll get into that. The substitution of the Copernican for the Ptolemaic system of astronomy, the decline of the feudal system, and the growth of commerce, and the invention or application of such potentially powerful innovations as paper, printing, the mariner's compass, and gunpowder. To the scholars and thinkers of the day, however, it was primarily a time of the revival of classical learning, which classical goes back to what? The Romans. All right, when they say classical, they're really referring to the Romans. Classical learning and wisdom after a long period of cultural decline and stagnation. All right, so after the fall of the old Western Roman Empire, they came back during the Renaissance, and as it says here, the Renaissance also witnessed the discovery and exploration of new continents, which is what? The age of colonization, which we can get some of that information here. Western colonialism, a political economic phenomenon whereby various European nations explored, conquered, and settled and exploited large areas of the world. The age of modern colonialism began about 1500. Which it began before that. Esau went out before 1500, but following the European discoveries of a sea route around Africa's southern coast in 1488, which was done by the Portuguese, and of America in 1492. Okay, your man Christopher Columbus. All right, with these events, sea power shifted from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic and to the emerging nation states of Portugal. Notice it says here, nation states. All right, keep that in mind because we're going to get into that. Of Portugal, Spain, the Dutch Republic, France, and England. By discovery, conquest, and settlement, these nations expanded and colonized throughout the world, spreading European institutions and culture. Now, what did it say in Revelation 6 and 8? It says, power was given him over the fourth part of the earth. So this is what it's referring to. Okay, when Esau went out during the age of colonialism and conquered the fourth part of the earth, North America, South America, Australia, Canada, the Caribbean, parts of far west, into the Orient. Okay, the age of colonialism. All right, so this is speaking of the rulership of the Edomites. All right, now let's do this. Let's go to Revelation 13:1. Okay, and it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, going into these 7 heads, okay, these 7 heads are 7 governments ruled by Esau, okay, the Edomites. Now, these 7 heads, this rulership, this comes before the 10 horns. Okay, so the 7 heads were there before the 10 horns came into play in a major way. All right, now these 7 heads are going into former provinces of the old Roman Empire, of really of post-Roman. Okay, so after Western Rome fell, there were certain provinces that arose that were ruled over by these barbarian tribes, and of those was England or Britain, France, Spain, Portugal. All right, those were the 4 major players. Then you had Germania Minor, which today are the states of the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. And then you had Germania Major, right, which today is the nation of Germany and Switzerland. Okay, so these 7 heads, all right, were 7 governments, 7 states, okay, that came before the 10 horns. Now, when you go into the 10 horns, in present day, it goes into the modern day European Union and NATO members. Okay, being what? Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Spain, Denmark, Britain, UK. Okay, and these all came out of the 7 horns. Okay, because out of Germania Minor came 3 nations, and out of Germania Major came 2 nations that the Romans did not conquer. All right, so today this makes up Salakia, drink some water. All right, so today this makes up basically Western Europe. All right, today it basically makes up Western Europe. Let me do this. European Union map. All right, so y'all can see, okay, that Western Rome came back. That deadly wound was healed. Let me get a good map here, right? All right, so you can see here. All right, now this was what? This was the Western Roman Empire, right? All of this here, and they've come back today through the power of the European Union and NATO. Okay, now NATO is the military might of these nations. Okay, the EU, that's the economic. Okay, that's the economic part of it. All right, which they subdued the whole world with both. All right, during the age of colonization. You see. So now, with that understanding, we can go to Revelation 17. All right, Revelation 17. And we can start at let me start at 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore. Now the great whore is who? We know that the great whore is America, or Babylon the Great, according to the Bible. All right, that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, so we know that the Western Roman Empire, when they came back in to their rulership by way of the Renaissance. They went out, they colonized the world, right? And certain nations came out of this colonization. All right, so let's go to Daniel 7. All right, because it speaks about, let me see, Daniel 7:7. And after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, all right, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. So this fourth beast, all right, has subdued, the whole of the earth, man. Okay, 2nd Ezra 6:9. Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. All right, so this fourth beast, this fourth kingdom upon the earth, okay, oppresses the nations, man. Okay, that's why it says dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, through what? His military might. All right, and it had great iron teeth, right? Going back to what? Rome. All right, the legs of iron, right? That's another clue to let you know who this fourth beast is. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. See, now we just went into that 10 horns understanding, right? But it says that this fourth beast is diverse from all that were before it, because when you consider the nature of the beast that came before Rome, this fourth beast, they all had kings, right? They all had kings. They had certain customs. They had their government set up a certain way. Well, this fourth beast is diverse. It's different, because, you know what I'm saying, it's not like, when you consider the European Union and America, they don't have kings. I mean, they can be called kings, but, you know what I'm saying, that's not the structure of the government. You know what I'm saying? Because back then, in these different kingdoms, pretty much whatever the king said goes. It was what is it? I don't know. But it was basically back then, whatever the king said, that's what happened. So the king was, the highest, lawgiver. The key, the king was the chief. Today they have what? They have a bipartisan system, which you elect, or so-called elect a president to rule over, see over the affairs of the people. Then under the president you have, certain people to keep the president in check so he don't go out of control and, just start doing certain things. You have a Supreme Court, you have the Senate, you have Democrats, Republicans, different smaller parties. Okay, so this beast now is diverse from all the beasts that came before. Daniel 7:8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in the horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Now, what is this little horn? Right? Now, this little horn that is being referred to in Daniel 7 and 8, this is speaking of America, who took down, behold, there came another little horn, whom there were 3. Okay, so this little horn plucked up 3 of the first horns. Now, these first horns that the little horn plucked up were England, Spain, and France. Now, like I mentioned, in the age of colonization, the main players in that whole thing, pretty much, the fourth part of the earth, for the most part was colonized by who? England, France, and Spain. All right? Because look, Spain took pretty much the whole of South America. You know what I'm saying? England pretty much took the whole of North America, Australia. Then the French has a large part of North America as well. All right, so America came in and plucked up these first little horns. Okay, it took them out of rulership. All right, and of course we know that America came out of the British, came out of England. You see, so through, all right, this little horn, all right, the whore, all right, it goes into, in the horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay, great blasphemies. All right, against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and his chosen people. Now, when you go back to Revelation 17, okay, the judgment of the great whore. Now, America is that great whore, Babylon the Great, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, the different philosophies that America push, okay, LGB plus, you know what I'm saying, Moism, you know, spreading its military, its culture, you know what I'm saying, the wine. Okay, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, we went into that, so you should understand now what these 7 heads and 10 horns are. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So this whore, all right, this whore, matter of fact, let's read on. And upon her head was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now, the elder Yashawamba, you know, GMS Dallas, he went into a great lesson, you know, going into how Babylon the Great is the mother of harlots. Okay, all of the similarities that goes into, you know, America pushing, you know, the ancient deities of the ancient world, you know, and all of the customs and, you know, sick, wicked, satanic practices, you know, are all here in America, Babylon the Great today. You know, the Statue of Liberty, you know, this whole bipartisan, you know, governmental system, you know, the worshiping these different holidays, you know, Christmas and so on and so forth. All of those things are here, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. All right, taking different occult practices from ancient Babylon, Egypt, you know, Medo-Persia, you know, and of course of the Greek and Roman captivity, you know. Verse 6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Revelation 17:8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition or destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not, and yet is. Okay, so this 4th beast, it was what? That was. So at one time, this beast was at its strength. It was at its height. It ruled over the whole of the known world. And is not, right? So there was a time when this beast went down. Okay, it was conquered. But what? It came back into power, and what? That's why it says, and yet is. So this beast came back. That deadly wound was healed. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. Now, that word mountain really goes into governments. Okay, mountains represent governments in the scriptures, right? The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Okay, so once again, Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, Greece, Germania Minor, which is Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germania Major, which is Germany and Switzerland. Okay, these are the 7 mountains, the 7 governments that are being referred to here, on which the woman sitteth, which is now today what? The European Union. Okay, Revelation 17:10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. All right, now this is talking about America. Okay, because 5 of these heads, okay, 5 of these kings fell. All right, but eventually they did come back. Okay, but America was the one that hadn't yet come. Okay, because these certain nations had to fall for America to be risen up. Okay, England, France, and Spain had to fall for America to rise up and become as powerful as it is now. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. America has only been in operation for what, 250 something years, I believe, or 240, something like that. So relatively within history, America is the youngest nation upon the planet Earth, you know, or one of the youngest. All right, one of the youngest major nations. All right, hey, but this place is about to be destroyed though. Okay, that's why the scriptures say he must continue a short space. All right, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven. This is speaking about America. Okay, the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth. So America, this is the eighth head, okay, that is on this beast. Okay, and he is of the seven. So he came out of the seven. Okay, mainly England, Britain, and goeth into perdition or destruction. And then, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Okay, so during the time that John the Revelator is seeing this vision, the 10 horns had not yet come into power. Okay, so they were vassal states. Okay, there were different barbarian tribes that were ruling over the old provinces of the Western Roman Empire. That's why I said they have received no kingdom as of yet. All right, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Okay, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So it eventually came, all right, where when America grew into its full strength, all right, the whore, which is America, rideth the beast. Okay, so Europe, okay, is pretty much like, you know, a vassal state unto America, the whore. Okay, the whore rideth the beast. That's why when you look at this whole Russia-Ukraine situation, Europe didn't start that. America started that, but you know what ended up happening? Europe, the EU, they had to follow behind America because what? America leads these nations. That's why it says they have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. All right. So, you know, going into understanding Slakia, you know, going into this understanding of the fourth beast, you know, it should be all coming together now. Okay, verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. This is the ultimate end of America, what's going to happen. Okay, so Europe is basically going to what? And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So eventually even Europe is going to turn on the whore. All right, and hey, you see that happening right now because Europe is losing its power. But America is, you know, keeps wanting to go to war with these different nations, you know what I'm saying? And Europe, you know, Africa is cutting off Europe right now. So where are they going to get their resources from? Where are they going to get their resources to build these vast armies that they were able to conquer the earth with? It's non-existent. So guess what? There's going to come a point where Europe is going to say, well, you know, damn, you can't beat them, join them. You see? So America, so Europe, they're going to join Russia, they're going to join China, they're going to join North Korea, Japan. Okay, which Japan is an ally of America as well, but they're going to turn against America too. All right, all of them are going to shoot ICBM nuclear missiles over here to America, Babylon the Great, and what? Burn her with fire, nuclear fire. All right, for Yahweh hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth, which once again is America, Babylon the Great. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson right there. Hopefully this lesson was edifying and nourishing to the sheep of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. In closing, call halal, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Racha Kadash. And until next time, come Yasha'Allah DTA and Abba Baba. Shalom.